Hi guys, and welcome along to today's ExamRevision Business Masterclass. My name's Keith Walsh, and I'm going to be taking you through the next hour or so for a masterclass on exam technique and Unit 3 for Leaving Certificate Business Studies, for Leaving Certificate Business. Just a quick one, if you don't follow us on social media, could I ask you to please follow us on social media? So we have Twitter, we've got Instagram, we just started TikTok, we've got Facebook, and we have our YouTube, okay, which you're all on at the minute. So if you haven't subscribed, please do subscribe to our channel so you can get access to the videos really easily. Today, if you have any questions, please just pop your questions into our Instagram story. So we put up on the Instagram story questions box. Pop your questions in there. I've got my phone open here beside me, so I'll see the questions as they come in, and I'll be answering them as the questions come in. So please, any questions you have at all, in regards to what we're doing today, or Unit 3, please just ask, and I will be able to hopefully answer them for you guys. Okay, so today's Saturday session, what's the focus of today? We're going to focus on like the Leaving Certificate Business, like the layout of the paper, the exam technique, your exam technique, because it's so important that you understand how like your business exam technique. So many students, they don't know how to answer the questions. They don't know like the appropriate like exam technique to use. So as a Leaving Certificate examiner, I want to show you like how easy it is to answer the question that you're being asked, and a way to do it like that. It's not going to take you a lot of time. So you need to be time is obviously a real constraint for the Leaving Certificate paper, as it is with most Leaving Certificate subjects, and you need to just be really precise when you're answering the business paper. And I'm going to show you how to do that today. We're going to look at Unit 3, Introduction to Management. We're going to focus on management, characteristics and skills, leading, motivating and communicating. Okay, we're going to look at the difference between entrepreneurs and managers, and we finish off with some past paper questions based on the content that we cover today. Okay, so the layout of the business paper, really important. And as you know, for this year, 2021, it's slightly different. There's been modifications made to the Leaving Certificate paper due to school closures, and there's going to be possibly further modifications to the papers, which will be released on March 22nd. But what we do know is some of the modifications that have already been released. So I'll talk you through the layout of the paper, because it is really important that you understand your Leaving Certificate business paper. So we've got 3 sections. We've got short questions for section 1. Section 2, we've got the ABQ, and this year it's focusing on units 3, 4 and 5. If you're a 5th year student watching in, okay, your units are going to be 4, 5 and 6 next year, okay, for 2022. So if you're sitting the Leaving Cert 2021, your ABQ units is 3, 4 and 5. And then section 3, this year you have to answer 4 questions out of 8. Okay, usually it's 4 out of 7, but for 2021 it's 4 questions you have to answer out of 8. Your timing, okay, so short questions, it's 80 marks. Okay, so it makes up 20% of your paper. Your ABQ, applied business question, it's 80 marks, makes up 20% of the Leaving Certificate paper. And then we have our 4 long questions, okay, so it's 240 marks, it's 60% of your paper. So each long question is 60 marks, it's worth 15%. Okay, so just to break it down for you guys, so you can really get a clear picture of what each section is worth for business Leaving Cert, okay, and that's a total of 400 marks. Your timing, okay, so this is like, a timing is one of those that you need to kind of practice yourself and understand like your own timing, because so these are like guided timings, but each student will vary like a little bit. Okay, so for example, for the short questions I would recommend about 25 minutes. For the ABQ I'd recommend 35 minutes, but some students may take 30 minutes to do the short questions, and they may take for the ABQ 30 minutes, and like that's okay. But if you're taking 25 minutes for the short questions, then you need to know that you can't take 40 minutes then for the ABQ, because you're going to run into timing issues then later on for your long questions. So you need to understand your own timing. If it's taking you 20 minutes to do the short questions, you're saving say 5 minutes, then you can spend 40 minutes doing the ABQ. Okay, but you'll only get this by practicing, sitting down and practicing like the short questions and practicing the ABQ and seeing how long it's taking you to answer those questions. And then for the long questions, I would recommend 2 hours. Okay, so you've got 4 questions, you've got 30 minutes for each long question. Okay, and 30 minutes by 4, you've got 2, so it's 2 hours in total. And that's the entire total marks, 400 marks, and it's 3 hours in length. Okay. So here's some of the modifications that's being released. So these are because of the school closures that we would have had back in 2020 from March to May, and what they've decided, what they've given to schools and to teachers, and to, based on, because of those school closures, the current arrangements and adjustments are here on the left and right hand side. So for the minute, for the higher level paper, you have to answer 8 out of 12 questions. It used to be like 8 out of 10, but it's now going to be 8 out of 12. Okay, so there's more choice there for students. There may be more modifications, and we will know this on March 22nd when that's the date to be released. So there may be slightly more. Like they might decide, okay, it's 8 out of 14 questions, or they might decide to slightly change like something else. Okay, for the long questions, you have to, in the past you had to answer 4 long questions, 7 possible questions, but for this year, for 2021, you're gonna have to answer 4 questions out of 8. Okay, in the past you had to do 1 question from part 1 and 2 from part 2, and then your last question came from part 1 and part 2. But this year, it's really, really nice for students sitting the 2021 paper. So you've got an additional like choice with an extra question, but also you just have to you can pick 1 question from part 1 and 1 from part 2, and then the other 2 questions can come from either part 1 of the paper or part 2, or you can pick 1 from part 1, another 1 from part 1, and another 1 from part 2. Okay, so really, really nice for the higher level paper for business students sitting the 2021 exam. If you're ordinary level, okay, so for short questions, there's no adjustments, and then there's been an increased choice for part 1 and part 2, where they've added on an additional question. Okay, short questions, okay, really, really important as a business written examiner. Some of the mistakes that I see, I'm just going to highlight now to you guys to make sure that you don't make them. Okay. One of the things is, like, students don't write enough for the short questions. Okay, really, really important that you develop your answers. So write 2 full sentences. Okay, so use all the lines that you have on the paper. Don't just write like 1 sentence, because they're 10 marks. They're when you think about it, like your long questions are like usually they're 20 if it's part A, or it's a 30 mark if it's a B. Like, so this is 10 marks. So you're not just going to get 10 marks just for writing like 1 sentence. Okay, you need to make sure that you fully develop your sentences, and my advice would be to write 2 sentences. Okay, this year, as I said, you're going to have 8 out of 12. Okay, so you've got really nice choice like for this year. And it's really important that you answer all questions. As an examiner, we will have to mark all your questions, and then we'll pick your best 8. So for example, this year there's 12 questions going to be asked on the paper. Answer all 12. Have an attempt at all 12, and then the examiner will add up and pick your best 8. Okay, so that will just it's a way of you maximizing your marks. Make sure you provide examples. So important in business that you provide examples. Okay. A little tip, some advice is to read through like the questions, and to put like a question mark or an X beside maybe questions that you're unsure of. Okay, because you can always come back to them. Okay, but make sure you highlight them, because so often when we're correcting the papers, we see a student just left the question like blank. They didn't even attempt it. Okay, whereas if you just highlight it, then it makes it really easy if you go on and you do your short questions, do your ABQ, and you do your long questions, and then at the end it's really easy for you to see that and not to miss that, and then you can maybe have a go at trying to answer the short question. Okay, your timing. you've got 30 minutes maximum, okay? But I would recommend 25 minutes, okay? But if it's taking you 30 minutes, like that's fine, but then you know that's going to have a knock-on effect, and your ABQ you probably have to do that within 30 minutes. If you're doing the short questions within 20 minutes, well, that's brilliant, okay? That means you've gained 10 minutes. You can use that then for ABQ, or you can use it for your long questions, but you need to know your own timing. And then the next tip was practice, practice, practice. The questions, there's only a bank of questions that we have as an exam as examiners. Like there's only a certain amount of questions that can be asked. So it's so important that you practice all the previous exam years. Go back into the exam years and practice the last 12, 13 years of the Leaving Cert business short questions, and that way then you will see they just repeat each other over and over again, and you will be able to maximize your marks. The ABQ, okay, so this doesn't apply if you're an ordinary level student, okay, you don't do an ABQ. So if you're a higher level student, okay, it's a compulsory section, okay, so it's 80 marks worth 20%. And this year, like I said, students for 2021 are focusing on units 3, 4 and 5. So this year, 3, 4 and 5 are the most important units for students. On average, the ABQ units usually make up for over 50% of the exam paper for Leaving Certificate Business. So it's so important that students know these 3 units inside out. So for 2021, if you're sitting the paper, 3, 4 and 5 are so important. Next year, if you're doing it in 2022, 4, 5 and 6 are the ones that are vital for you. They're so important, and you need to really, really understand them. And that's why today we're focusing on unit 3. You've got 3 questions, and you need to make sure that you develop your answers. Okay, so you state, you explain, you expand on your point, and you must link it back to the text. Okay, there must be a link, and this is a thing that we see so often where students don't make a relevant link. Okay, you need to know your command words, which I'm going to talk to you about further on in the slides, and you need to be able to. It's important that students read the questions before they read the text. Otherwise, you're going to waste time. So when you go to your ABQ, read the 3 questions you have. A little tip that I will talk you through another masterclass when I do it on an ABQ is to have 3 different highlighters. So for part A, I would highlight like green, part B, I'd highlight in maybe yellow, and part C, highlight in say pink. And then you'll find your answers by highlighting. Say for A, the color in the first paragraph it's usually in, then it usually goes in chronological order. But it's really important that you read the questions, so then you know what you're looking for. Otherwise, if you read the text, you're not sure what you're looking for then if you're reading the questions afterwards. So read the questions first, then read the text and try find your answers. Okay, timing. Okay, so for the 20 marker, you're looking at about 8 minutes. For the 30 markers, you're looking at 14 minutes and then 4 minutes to read the passage. But again, your timings are unique to each person because everyone is slightly different. They do short questions. Maybe some people do them quite quickly. Some will take their time and be a little bit slower. But that's okay because they're worth the same percentage. They're both worth 80 marks. So you need to make sure that if it takes you 30 minutes to do short questions, that's okay. That's fine because you should give it the same amount of respect as the ABQ because the ABQ is worth 80 marks and so is a short question. So it's the same and it's the same value. So don't rush through the short questions and make silly mistakes just to try and make up time so you can do the ABQ because they're both worth the same amount. So you need to make sure that you maximize your marks in the short questions if that's what you're really good at. And don't make that mistake of doing the short questions really quickly to try save time and then consequently making lots of mistakes then in the short questions. The long questions, okay, so you got to answer 4 questions, okay, from 8 this year. So 1 from part 1, 1 from part 2, and then you have 2 more questions from either part 1 or 2. So fantastic, it's like this year, so much choice on the paper, and this makes it really quite easy for you guys, if you're sitting the paper in 2021, to really study smart and maximize your marks because you can. I'll show you in a few minutes as you go through the slide how you can really figure out what's going to come up on the exam. A general rule of thumb is if a question is 20 marks, divide it by 5 and then that tells you how many points you need to give for the answer. So it'll be 4 points. Okay, so really, really good thing. So if it's 15 marks, 3 points. If it's 25, 5. If it's 20, 4. Okay. It's important that if for the long questions you have the command word evaluate. Okay, you need to have it. You need to have a title right at the bottom called evaluations. Okay, or your evaluation, and then you give like your evaluation. Okay, and this is something that I'm going to talk to you about just in a few more slides when I go through like the command words, because the command words are so important that students know what they mean. Okay, because if you don't know what the command words mean, well then what's going to probably happen is you're going to answer the question but not answer the question properly. And how many times have you heard from your teacher like say to you, you didn't answer the question that was asked? Okay, and that's probably because you're not answering the question that was asked because you're not aware, understand the command word, and that's what I will show you later on today. Your time, it's going to be 30 minutes per long question. Okay, and what we see on the paper more and more in recent years is mini case studies, so mini ABQs, as sometimes I like to call them, where they put like they've got a small bit of text and you need to read that, and then it applies to the questions that they then ask in the long questions. It's really important that they're putting that case study, those mini ABQs there. You need to make reference to them. Okay, you must make reference to them. If you don't make reference to them, you just go straight into your answer, you won't score very well. Okay, so you need to make sure that if there's a little mini case study, a mini ABQ, make sure you make reference to them. Okay. Question that sometimes we get is, where do the short questions, what do they consist of? Well, the short questions consist of all 7 units. Okay, so consist of all 7 units. So just to make you aware of that, and I'm going to talk you through. So I have these sheets where it's like the minimum requirements for Unit 3. So these are like all the, like, I've broken it down just for the minimum, like, that you need to know for Unit 3. Okay, so management characteristics, what's delegation and the benefits, leadership styles, Maslow and McGregor's theory X and Y, and so on. Okay, and by the way, I see a question come in there saying, can we get access to the slides? Yeah, of course you can get access to the slides. If you just go in, pop in, you'll see in the description there where we have I've got like there should be a link. If you click on that and just put your email address in there, we will send out all these notes to you after the class. Okay, so and really good question. If there's any more questions, please do put them in here. I see actually a lot of questions coming in here. So let me just have a look. I'll go through some of these questions now, because I want to try and make it as interactive as possible. So let me see. So do you think we need outside examples to get H1? I just can't see the rest of it. Hold on. Sorry. Do you think we need outside examples to get H1 in business? Okay, so examples are so important. Okay, examples are what set like students apart. Okay, and as an examiner, what you need to do as an examiner, we want to know that the student understands, that they haven't just learned something from a book and then just regurgitate it. Okay, and in the past you would have scored back before it was H1s, it was when it was the A1, A2 and B1, you would have scored like quite well by just regurgitating information. But the business exam is changing, where they're giving you more ABQs, they're giving you more like mini ABQs, as I like to call them, and they want you to like apply what you know. And a really good way of demonstrating your knowledge and showing like that you understand is by giving examples. Okay, and the examples can be your own. They can be your own individual, like your interests. Okay, so that's what I would say to students is, try to write down and link things that you're learning about in business to like your life. Okay, and to the things that you like. So if you follow like, if you're interested in hair and makeup, think about like the entrepreneurs that are involved in that sector that you like, and the marketing strategies that they use, or if your interest is like sport and you really like football and there is a Gaelic or whatever it might be, think about those, like the people in those sectors and in those like
sports do you like, and try to make your examples from that, because it makes it much easier for you then to remember. But examples, you are vital. You need to have examples, okay? And so important. And I'll show you, like, with the exam technique, and that, and like, that's really what sets, like, like, examples set like a student from getting, say, a H1 to like a H4. H4, if your examples aren't very strong or aren't very good, you're not gonna score. You're gonna be around H4, H5. But if you can show that you understand, and then you can apply it, and you've got like really good examples, that shows the examiner, yes, this person actually knows what they're talking about, so we're going to give them like full marks. We'll give them 2 for stating, and then the explanation, then we'll give them the 3. And I will speak more about like the exam technique as we continue. Okay, so really good question there. And this kind of brings me on to our command words. Okay, these are all the command words that you'll see on the business paper. Okay, you'll see outline, state, draw, explain, analyze, discuss, illustrate, evaluate. So as a student, as a Leaving Cert student, you need to know these command words, okay? Because if the question says outline, it means something different than if it says illustrate. Or if it says explain, that is different if the question then changes to evaluate, okay? Now, there are really subtle like changes and differences, and I'm going to show you like a way that you can maximize your marks by using like a little technique that kind of applies for most of these questions, okay? Most of these command words, depending on how it's phrased, okay? But outline and state is just simply, it's looking for 1 or 2 sentences. They want you just to give like just outline like something. It's just to state something. It's 1 or 2 sentences, like, and these tend to come up in like the short questions, particularly like state. Outline might come up in the longer questions. We do see that word, and that it's brief information, getting straight to the point. If it's draw, it's draw. So it might be like draw, break even, or something like that. Explain is very, very common, okay? Explain is a really common one, and I will show you how to explain, analyze, illustrate, and evaluate, how you can like link these together. And outline, you can link all of those command words can be linked together. If it's analyze, they want you to kind of show like 2 sides. So you're looking at kind of like the advantages and disadvantages. If it's discuss is unique, okay? And I will speak about discuss in not the next slide, the slide after. Illustrate means you must give examples, okay? You must give examples, okay? And then evaluate, you have to have your own, like a separate heading right at the end, and you'll say evaluation, and then you'll give your evaluation. For the evaluation, you must give a balanced argument, though. You must give like a balanced viewpoint. So a way that like I tend to tell students to try balance your argument is, you have to give like what do you think, okay? And then you should show the other side. So a way of doing this might be like, okay, yeah, for example, say it's on marketing, and you say, okay, I think marketing is really, really important because marketing helps it helps like businesses to increase their brand awareness. It helps to increase their customers. However, okay, and you put in that point then, however, because now I'm going to show a balance. However, one thing that a business needs to be aware of with their marketing is that they budget and they manage their cash flow properly. Because if they don't manage their cash flow effectively, then this could lead to liquidity problems. Okay, and now I've shown like a balance. Okay, so a little key thing for when you're using the evaluation is, give me what you think, and then say however, and look at it from another angle. Because, and it's like this with all type of like evaluate. Like evaluate is a higher order like level of thinking, and when you go to university and you go to college, you'll probably have to be asked to evaluate and to critically analyze. And what they're it's a higher order thinking. They want to show you balance. If you just tell me all the good things about something, you're not shown balance. You're not shown that higher order, because there's always pros and cons with everything, and that's what the evaluate wants us to do when you're evaluating. Show me what you think, but give me the balance side. Give me the other side of the coin, and show me that there is some maybe things that we need to be aware of. Okay, right. Here's this. With the long questions, so if it's outline, explain, illustrate, analyze, or evaluate, you can use this approach. This is my little tip, okay? So you can use the C approach. So you can state, explain, and then provide an example, okay? So if the question has outline, explain, illustrate, analyze, or evaluate, you can state. Now, when you state something, you should give you should write a heading. Okay, 1 or 2 words, write a heading, and then you explain your point. Okay, so you explain it and you develop it as much as you can, like 2-3 sentences, and you should always provide examples. Always provide examples, because examples show the examiner that you understand what you're talking about. You're able to like apply it to real life. Okay, like that's effectively what you're doing. So it's so important that you state, so you put a heading, then you explain it 2 or 3 sentences, and then you provide an example. Okay, if you do that, that will be good. Like that will work for outline. Explain, it's perfect. State, explain, and then you provide an example. Illustrate, it works for because you're providing the examples. Okay, because illustrate means that there's marks going in the market schema where it'll specifically say, okay, illustrate is going to be X amount of marks. Okay, so if you don't put in examples, then you're not going to score those marks. Where with explain, you could possibly get full marks. Like if it was 20 marks, it's always going to be 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, 3 for your 4 points, and you could possibly get like your 3 points for 2 for state, 3 for explain, without having an example. But an example will reinforce and give like added weight to your answer, and it will give you generally, it will, if it's right, the example, it will give you the full marks then. So I would say you should always put state, explain, example. For illustrate, you must have examples. If you don't have examples, you're not going to get full marks. There's no way, no matter how good you explain. If you analyze, again, it works for analyze because you state, explain, and then provide examples where possible. But analyze, usually it's going to be like advantages and disadvantages. So you can state like an advantage, state, and then explain the advantage, and then give me an example. You can state the advantage, the second advantage, explain the second advantage, and then give an example. And then you give like state the disadvantage, explain the disadvantage, and then explain the disadvantage like an example. And you do that again, okay? Then we get to evaluate. This is what I spoke about earlier on. So if it was say 20 marks, okay, they're probably looking if it's say, we'll say 25 marks, okay. What they're probably looking for here is 4 points, okay, and then they want you to evaluate at the end. So you'll go state, explain, example, okay. That's my 5 marks. We'll say state, explain, example. That's my next 5 marks. State, explain, example. That's 15. State, explain, example. That's 20. And then there will be marks, whether it's 5 or 4 marks, there will be going for your evaluation. And you have to write a heading right at the bottom that says evaluation. So write the heading evaluation, and then give your evaluation. So what do you think? But it must be a balance. Okay, you must like show both sides. So you tell me what you think, and then put in the word however, because that then will show you, it'll counterbalance it and show like a balanced argument. And that's my little tip for answering these questions. And if you use this approach, you give a heading, you explain and develop your answer, and then give an example, you will score really, really well in the Leaving Certificate business exam. If it's evaluate, this is perfect. State, explain, example, but then you must at the end have evaluation and give me what your evaluation is, but it must be balanced, okay? So one of the words that we've left out here is discuss, and discuss is unique, it's different, okay? But I'm going to show you that this can still work. This state, explain, example, this C approach can still work for discuss, but what we're told as examiners is that there shouldn't be a heading for discuss, okay? There shouldn't be a heading for discuss, for the command word discuss, because so what students have to do is they have to mention what they're going to like say, what they would have like normally like stated, okay, their heading. They have to put that into the first sentence, okay, and then explain their answer. And an example is very good to use, okay. So with the command word discuss, you shouldn't have a heading, but you should put in whatever you're going to discuss in your first sentence. It's a really, really like a unique kind of like strange one for us as examiners, because this is what we're told. They need to have the word, whatever they're going to discuss needs to be in the first sentence, and there's no need for a heading. Okay, so there's no need for a heading, and the word and whatever you're going to discuss needs to be in the first sentence. Okay, so really, really important. And then you just explain it. You develop your answer as much as you can. And examples, if it works, is really good, because it again reinforces to us as examiners, yeah, this student knows what they're talking about. Okay, Here's an example of ABQ. Okay, so this is ABQ, and this is your section is going to be units 3, 4, and 5. Okay. Coming on to the long questions, I'm going to quickly show you where do these questions come from. Okay, so sometimes students don't realize where these questions come from. So you've got 7 questions. Like this year, you'll have 8 questions, but it's really important and it's really valuable if you know where the questions come from. So question 1 always comes from unit 1. Okay, so did you know that? So question 1 always comes from unit 1. Okay, so people in business. Question 2 always comes from unit 6, so the domestic environment. So this will question 2 will always come from unit 6. Question 3 will always come from unit 7. Okay, and that would traditionally be part 1 of the paper. But it's going to be a little different like this year because they're going to add another question, maybe to part 1, maybe to part 2. We'll see. So like question 3 always comes from unit 7. Okay, question 4 comes from units 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so 2, 3, and 4. Question 5 comes in 3, 4, and 5. Question 6 is from 3, 4, and 5. And then question 7 is always from unit 5, business in action. Okay, so just really important for you guys to know that like where the questions actually come from. Because it can really help you like for your studies. For example, like you could be like, right, I'm going to do question 7. I'm gonna it's going to come up from unit 5 and just focus on unit 5. You can see here for question 5, question 6, and question 7, they all come from unit 5. Okay, so unit 5 is a very, very important unit for you. So, and you can see here 3, 4, and 5, 3, 4, and 5 for these questions, and question 4, 3 and 4. Okay, and unit 2 is a very, very easy unit. Okay, with enterprise. So so you can see like for you guys, 3, 4, and 5 are such important units because they make up so many of the long questions. Plus, it's the IBQ. So over 50% of your paper like this year, 2021, will come from your units 3, 4, and 5. If you look back through all the years, the lowest it was ever was 43%, and how much the paper was made up of the units that you study for your ABQ. Right, I'm just going to have see a lot of questions coming in here. Can an ABQ question be less than an A4 page? Okay, an ABQ be less than an A4 page. Okay, so yeah, the whole question, like A, B, and C. No, I wouldn't think so. But a question, if it was just like part B, yeah, it definitely can be less than like an A4 page. Depends on obviously the number of marks. If it's a 30 marker, it's 20 marker. If it's 25, it's going to have differences. But yeah, like there's no set like. There's no like as an examiner, you're not told it needs to be a page and a half. Like, you know, there's nothing that is set out that. It's just how well you answer the question, and the H1, H2, H3 students will always like know their exam technique, kind of like what I spoke about earlier on the command words. They'll know and they'll just be really precise and just get straight to it. So if it's like explain, they'll just give a heading, then they'll explain it, and then they'll give an example. So we're talking like 3 or 4 sentences. So if it's an ABQ, it's the same thing. You're going to state, you're going to explain, but you're going to put in a link, a direct quote. Use a different color pen. This is my tip, and then you'll provide like, and then you go on and do the next one. Then like the second, third, and fourth point. Okay, so then the question here to see what units could we leave out. Okay, this year for you guys, what you could leave out is you could leave out unit 7. Okay. Because for part 1 you just have to do one question, so you could just be like, right, I'm going to do unit 1. Okay, I'm going to do unit 1, and I'm going to leave out say unit 7. You could leave out units. So basically, you could leave out unit 1, unit 6, or unit 7. I would recommend either just making a decision between unit 1 or unit 7. I would leave unit 6 because it can come up elsewhere. Okay. But yeah, you like this year, you can definitely leave out unit 1 or unit 7. You can narrow it down more, and I have I can show you like how you can do that like further in another masterclass, like closer to the time when your time is kind of really like precious. Let me just have a quick little look, because there's a lot of questions coming in. Can we get a copy of today's PowerPoint presentation? Yeah, of course. Just pop your name into your email into the link. It should be in the description below this video, and I will send them out to you. Do examples have to be real life, or can they be fictional? Okay, so they should be. They don't have to be like, oh, in 1927, like this is what happened, like this business. It doesn't have to be like really specific like that. So you can be like, oh, like. Like say for a bit motivation, you can be like, okay, an example of a way to motivate an employee, you can be like, would be to give them perks, or to give them like a company phone, or to give them a company car. Like you can say like, e.g. when an employee is given a company car by their employer, like it's like that, like that's the examples we're talking about. Or if you're on about like, say, a contract being cancelled, you can be like, oh, an example of a contract being cancelled was Adrian Mutu with Chelsea, when he didn't pass, like he failed a drugs test, and then he was his contract was cancelled. Like it can be really, really simple and basic ones like that. Like that's what the examiner wants. Like they just want your world, whatever. And that's why I say to use like your world, whatever you know, like the celebrities that you follow, the interests that you have, the hobbies that you have. There are businesses in those areas that you follow and that you like. Take those and make your examples from them, because that's exactly what an examiner wants. They want you to be able to. All we want when we're correcting the exam is that like we understand that this person actually really knows what they're talking about, that they're able to apply it to like real life. So use the world that you like. Okay, so if it's arts, if it's education, if it's sports, if it's beauty, whatever it might be, whatever your interests and hobbies are, take them and then think about the people that are in those worlds, or the businesses that are in there, and then apply them to your questions, and then you will score really, really well. So predictions for Unit 3, things that I think could possibly come up. So theory X and Y, your management skills, so leading, motivating, communicating, meetings, communication, span of control, organizational structures, and stock control and quality control. So these are things that from Unit 3 I think have a really good chance of appearing on the 2021 paper. So this is where it brings us on to, we're going to look at some content for Unit 3, and then I'm going to go straight into like exam questions and showing you like how to develop them and how I develop, and from correcting like the papers and seeing like how, like where students go wrong, and how easy you can get the marks by just having like a heading and then explain it like 2 or 3 sentences, and then giving like an example. Okay, so management. So the process of setting objectives and ability to achieve results through people. An objective is a goal to be achieved. Management can be defined as a process involving an organization of resources in order to achieve objectives. Okay, so this is what like a definition of management is. Okay, so it's a process of setting targets, setting objectives, and then the ability to achieve these through the use and delegation of people. Okay, so managerial characteristics, important that you know some of these. Okay, and I would take, if you have a pen and piece of paper there, I'd make a little note of these characteristics, because these are the ones that were given in the marking scheme to award the marks for it. Not all characteristics that sometimes you might think might be a characteristic would score marks. So the ones that are on the exam, that on the marking scheme that we're given, are things like using initiative, problem solver, flexible, charismatic, decisive. Okay, so uses, like if someone like uses the initiative, like it's then if you're going to explain that, like they don't need to be told what to do, instead they act on their own behalf. They're proactive. They've got high levels of like self-belief to carry out their tasks. Okay, something along those lines. You're gonna just so if you were asked about like, explain managerial characteristics, it's 20 marks. You'd have to give 4 points. You'd say use the initiative would be your heading, and then you'd give your explanation. So they don't need to be told what to do. They're very proactive. They've got like high levels of self-belief, and they carry out their tasks. Okay, and then and then give like an example. Okay, you can do like e.g. an example would be an employee like carrying out tasks without the manager like telling them what to do. Okay, if it's a problem solver, it might be something like characteristics of problem solver. That's 2. You're getting your state. Then you explain. You're gonna have to give like ability to analyze problems and reduce them by manageable like parts. Okay, if it's like flexible, okay, again, give your state, but then explain it. So adaptable, they're able to change their intended like course of action depending on like the environment. Okay, so you could be like, e.g., you could say like, e.g., like businesses that had to change due to like COVID-19. Okay, or maybe like it's a person had to change. If you know like a person in your again your worlds that had to like adapt and change like and how to do things. So like it could be like, e.g., e.g. like an employee now like working like online or working from home. They're like that shows like an example of being flexible. So someone maybe working for like Apple who's now working from home, or someone who's working for Google or Facebook or whoever it might be is able to work from home. Charismatic, decisive. Okay, so again, state, explain, and then provide like a simple example where possible. Management skills. Okay, so there's 3 management skills, and if the question asks you to to explain management skills or different types of management skills, you need to talk about these. You need to talk about leading, motivating, and communicating. There's no other management skills that you should mention, because these are the 3 that are on the specification or on the syllabus, and these are the 3 that will be accepted on the marking scheme. Okay, so leading. What is leading? Well, it's giving direction to a business by making all important decisions. Okay, it means guiding all staff and influencing them to carry out the work. Okay. And how can you lead staff? Okay, well, there's different types of leaders. Okay, and there's 3 different types of leadership style. We've got autocratic, we've got democratic, and laissez-faire. Okay, really common. I think these could possibly come up on the exam. And if you're asked to explain or to evaluate or to illustrate different types of, or outline different like types of leadership styles, you need to know them. Okay, so an autocratic believes like that manager, so the manager believes that they should be in control, should like supervise their staff. There's lack of like trust, and they're very like very much like the person who's in control and doesn't really like consult with their staff. Democratic, this is someone who wants to be involved with the workers, and then wants their workers to be involved in like the decision making process. Employees will be consulted, but at the same time, a democratic, like they would be prepared to make like the final call at the end. They might listen to everyone, and then at the end they'll make the final decision, what they think is best for the business. And then laissez-faire, that's like someone who believes in hiring like the best employees, and then allowing them to be able to give them the freedom to be able to express themselves, and to be able to I suppose to carry their tasks by letting them off and not keeping like a close eye on them. An example of someone who might do this would be like Richard Branson. He's very like much about like empowering like staff and letting them take control. If it's motivating, okay, so motivating, this is when like a manager is aware of like ways to motivate employees to complete tasks. Okay, and there's different ways you can motivate staff. You could threaten them, okay, or you could offer them rewards, okay. And there's different types of rewards you can give them. You can give them monetary rewards and non-monetary rewards, okay. Theories that you need to know, okay. So Maslow's hierarchy of needs, really important, and this is about like Maslow's hierarchy of needs is about like 5 different like levels, like hierarchies, and as each lower need is satisfied and you move up to the next level, then the individual then is like that's the thing that will motivate them. And in order to move up, like it's the pyramid for Maslow's, it's important that that managers are like aware of like what actually motivates the employees. Okay, so at the start, like it might be about like their physical needs, like they need food, they need shelter, and if those needs aren't met, it doesn't matter like how much. Well, if they were given money, they'd be able to probably buy food and get shelter. But it doesn't matter how much praise, say for example, the managers give them. If they don't have like food and shelter, then everything else is kind of like irrelevant. But once they have food and shelter, they've got their physical needs are met, then they move up to the next stage until they get to the top with the self-actualization. McGregor's theory X and theory Y. So theory X believes that like all workers, they're lazy, they're only motivated by money. Okay, so if you take that approach and that theory, then as a manager, then you will just be given like monetary ways to motivate staff. There's also a theory Y, McGregor's theory Y, and then believes that like workers enjoy working for the business, and they think that they enjoy being like given responsibility and delegating work out to them. Okay, communicating. Okay, this involves a process of basically transferring like information, and it's important that like in a business you've got good communication. Okay, because if you've got good communication, it'll have lots of knock-on effects: better morale, more motivated workforce, better industrial relations. So the relationship between employers and employees. And it's different things that can affect communication. So maybe like the cost effectiveness, the feedback, the accuracy, clarity, the appropriate medium, and time. Okay, so these are things that managers need to consider when they're going to communicate. And sometimes it's appropriate to use one form of feedback, one form of like method of communication, and other times it wouldn't be appropriate to use that form of communication. There's also some barriers that we need to be aware of to effective communication. So like language, sometimes barriers, maybe the incorrect method to communicate the message mightn't be used, unclear communication, or maybe there's too much information and then it makes things confusing. And these are all like different barriers that a manager needs to be aware of. There's different ways that communication can go. It can go upward, so from employee to managers. It can go downward, so from managers to employees, or it can go horizontal, so across employees to employee on the same level. Question that for Unit 3 that you need to be aware of is difference between an entrepreneur and a manager. Okay, so an entrepreneur and a manager. So initiative could be one that you could mention. So an entrepreneur, they generate like lots of ideas and find new ways of like tackling like problems and solving problems. They try to like spot like gaps in the market. Where a manager, they just implement the ideas. So like an entrepreneur might come up with it and try to fix the problem, where a manager then will just implement the strategies in order to fix that then. Levels of risk. Entrepreneurs usually take on like high levels of risk, both personal and financial risks. And whereas like a manager, they won't have that risk because they might lose their job, like if the business isn't successful, but they're not going to take on huge like financial risk like usually, because they don't own the business or run the business. Where an entrepreneur, someone starting up a business, they're going to take on a considerable risk, both personal and financial. Another difference could be future focus. So an entrepreneur is like always thinking about like the future, expanding on the business, where the manager is more day to day and thinking about like the running and the operation of the business. And another one, last one, level of reward. An entrepreneur has a greater, I suppose, potential to increase, I suppose, the level and quantity of money that they can receive. But they also have then it's kind of that like risk reward. Like they've also got greater risk, but they've got greater like levels of reward, because they could keep like large percentage of like the profits if the business is successful. In some cases, maybe all the profits if they're like a sole trader. Whereas a manager, it will usually be paid like a salary or be paid like a wage. Okay. Right. So I'm going to look at some exam questions. And I'm going to show you like how I use like the exam technique. So I spoke earlier on about like using the C approach, the state, explain, example, and how it works for most questions. And now I'm going to show you like this in reality, okay, based on what we've just covered today. So this is a question come up a couple of, number of years ago. So name one leadership style, and then part B, illustrate how a manager adopting a leadership style might manage the process of change in a business. 10 marks. Okay, you see down here it says like MS, so that just stands for marking scheme. So part I, A, that should be A, yeah, is 4 marks, and then B is 6. Okay, 6 marks, and it says 3 plus 3. So I would use the C approach: state, explain, example. Now, we know that this word, the command word here is illustrate. What does illustrate mean? Illustrate means you must have examples. If you don't have examples, you're going to lose these 3. You're going to lose marks. Okay, so you lose. There'll be 2 or 3 marks that you won't be able to get if you don't have if you don't have examples in your answer. Okay, so really quickly then, name one leadership style. Autocratic, really easy, 4 marks. Now let's do our technique. So let's do our state. When I say state, I mean a heading. Okay, so illustrate how managers adopting this leadership style might manage the process of change in a business. Okay, so intimidate workers. Okay, so a manager might intimidate workers into accepting changes. Okay, example: threatening redundancies or cutbacks, making them feel that they will have to go along with the changes out of fear. An example: low skill job, floor staff in pennies or duns. Okay, this is where an autocratic style might work, and a manager might adopt this to try manage like change. So you can see here, state. This is my state here. My intimidating workers. Then I said, like, I'm explaining and giving an example. A manager might use intimidate workers into accepting change. Example: threatening redundancies, making them feel that they won't have to go along with the changes out of fear. Example: low skill job, floor staff in pennies or duns. Now, that's only 4 sentences there, and I've got the marks. Okay, so I just want to show you like how easy it can be to get the marks. Now, if we have like another question, okay, so we have, say, outline 2 styles of leadership and illustrate how each of these styles may be appropriate in different business situations. 20 marks. Okay, so it says 2 plus 3 plus 3 plus 2. Okay, and it says 2 at 10 marks each. Okay, so you're kind of thinking, okay, what is this? Okay, so how's this going to go? So outline two styles of leadership. So I have to give 2 styles of leadership. Okay, so I'm going to get like 2 and 2 will be, and then you have to then illustrate how each of these styles may be appropriate in different business situations. Okay, so the first one I'm going to do is autocratic. Okay, getting 2 marks for my state. Then I'm going to say a leader who likes to be in control of things and does not delegate work to subordinates. They are rarely engaged in consulting with employees, ignoring their opinions and dictating orders instead. Fear and threats are used as motivators, which may, in the short term, work, but maybe not so in the long term. Therefore, morale will suffer as staff won't feel involved and trusted. Okay, an example: this style of leadership may be appropriate when dealing with unskilled staff with little job attachment and morale in order to make sure that they get the work done, like low skilled workers in production line doing monotonous like tasks, so monotonous tasks. Sorry. So here we have a perfect example where we use the state, gives the state, then we explained, and then we give it an example, and that way we're getting full marks. You can see here in green I have like I've got like therefore, and the reason for that is it's really important that like you develop your answers. So when you're explaining, you should try to use like words like therefore, this means that, as a result, this will lead to, because of this, as a result, because all those connected words show like help you to develop your answers, and then when you put in an example, you are getting the full marks. There's no way you're not going to get the full marks, because you've stated, you've explained, you've developed your explanation, and then you give an example. Full marks. Outline. Okay, so this is the second part of the question. Okay, so another type of like leadership style. Okay, so another type of leadership style, democratic. Okay, then you're going to explain it. Okay, so get 2 marks for democratic. If I explain it, I'm getting 3 marks. 3 marks then going to be for my so two marks going to be for like your democratic, your naming, like you're stating it. Then 3 is going to be for like your explanation and then developing on your explanation, and then 2 marks is for your illustrate, for your example. So opinions and feedback are sought from staff before decisions are made. Staff feel more valued and motivated as, okay, their trust is shown by the superiors, okay, by the bosses, by the managers. The authority to complete tasks is delegated to staff, but ultimately with the delegation of task responsibility lies with the manager. They'll make the final decision. An example: this style is appropriate in most businesses. A focus on teamwork and staff involvement would suit. An example: staff working in Google or Apple or Facebook or whatever it might be, okay, whatever your business that you're going to use. Here's another example, okay? Here's another question, sorry. Outline 2 possible implications for a business if a manager adopts McGregor's theory X approach to managing. So the marking scheme, 2 marks at 5, okay? So it's 10 marks in total, and it's going to be 3 and 2. So if you state, you're getting 3. If you explain it, you're getting 2. So McGregor's theory X thinks employees are lazy. So my heading could just be like lazy. Or it could just, you could have a bigger heading like I have here. The manager will have little trust in his employees and will spend a lot of time supervising them, as the employees may start to dislike work as they don't feel trusted, and it's not being much being delegated to them. It's not being empowered. As a result, they may resent the employers and want to take on more work. Okay. Employees will avoid new responsibilities. Okay, so your heading could be employees will avoid new responsibilities, or you could just be avoiding your responsibilities if you wanted. So the manager will think that staff do not want any more responsibilities, and they will avoid the chance of it. So they will not offer that to them. This may lead to staff never being empowered, and they won't develop any new skills, and then it'll lower the chance of innovation and or entrepreneurship within the business. And that would be enough here. Okay, so that would be your 10 marks. I'm just going to give you like here's like another example that you could have. So another possible implication of McGregor adopting like a theory X approach: staff are motivated by money only. Okay, so that's my heading. The business may continuously have to increase wages or offer more like monetary rewards to keep staff motivated and to keep motivation high, because they're only motivated by money. That's what staff believe. That's what managers believe. There be no job enrichment is offered or promotional like paths, which then can lead to absenteeism and poor levels of motivation within the business. Another example: illustrate the factors that a business needs to consider when communicating with its various stakeholders. So illustrate. So this means that I must have examples. Okay. So state, explain, and must have examples. Okay. So it's 4 points. You need 20 marks. So 5 marks each, 3 and 2. So we're getting 3 marks and 2 marks. Okay. So 3 marks for stating, and then 2 marks for developing it. Okay, if it's got examples in it. Now it could be broken down further in the exam paper. They might say 2 for state, 2 for explain, and then 1 if they have the example. Okay, so illustrate the factors that business needs to consider when communicating with its various stakeholders. Appropriate language and clarity. If the language is too technical or too much jargon is used, then the stakeholder mightn't understand, and the message could be misinterpreted. Therefore, the business needs to choose language appropriate to its audience. Example: short, clear sentences and visual supports should be used for consumers, which may be suitable for product assembly. Example: instructions for IKEA couch. Okay, so you're just making up like an example there. Okay, but that's perfect. Okay, if it was like your world, you could be like examples, instructions for when you're downloading a new app. Okay, or instructions for when you're making a video, when you're trying to set up something. Okay. Confidentiality or safety. The medium chosen must be appropriate to the nature of the message. If the message is sensitive for the stakeholders or requires a personal touch. Example: terminate an employee's contracts. Okay, you wouldn't just send them a text message. You wouldn't just send them an email or a letter. You would have a meeting, and then you might send a letter afterwards. But you would have a meeting. You would probably do it like face to face. Okay. Right, I'm just a little bit conscious of time here. Oh, it's 3. Okay, yeah, so it's 3. So let me just have a little questions here, because I know I haven't answered all the questions. Right, there's a lot of questions that have come in. So is getting a H1, H2 manageable in business? From Andrea. Yeah, it definitely is manageable. But you need to have your exam technique like really like on point. It needs to be really good. You need to be using this like state, explain, example. You need to understand these command words. Like if you don't understand that, like illustrate, then and you don't put in examples, you're going to lose out marks. If it's like evaluate and you don't put in your heading at the bottom, like I was talking about, and you don't give a balanced one, you're going to lose marks for evaluation. If it's discuss and you put in a heading and you don't put in whatever you're going to discuss in the first sentence, you're going to lose marks. So like things like this will eat into your marks and cause you then to make it harder to get like a H1 or a H2. So but it definitely is possible. Timing is also a thing that you need to work on. So just from Kieran here, how important are key business terms? So let me just see the rest of it. How important are key business terms? I think I have them right, but my teacher goes on about them. How important are key business terms? So yeah, so key business terms, like they're important that you understand them, Kieran. And when you understand them, like that's what you need to know. Like with business is not it's not about learning off and then just regurgitating it. It's about understanding and then applying what you know to your business world, to what the things that's around us and that's happening like in everyday life. And when you do that and you've got then your exam technique really good, then you're going to score like really well in the exam. Practicing the exam papers is so important. Like so many students, they don't practice the exam papers. So it's vital that you do practice the exam papers and that you understand like your timing. So how would you open an answer for the command word discuss? Okay, so if it was like discuss, so a really good question. Who's that from? From Lauren. Okay, really good question, Lauren. If you how do you open a question that has discuss? So if it says discuss factors, so we just change this. Discuss the factors that business needs to consider when communicating with its various stakeholders. Okay, so instead of having the heading cost, I would say one of the factors a business needs to consider is the cost. Okay, when communicating its message. So I'd put whatever I would normally have in my heading into my first sentence. It has to be in your first sentence. Okay, so that's what I would do for that one. Really good question, Lauren. Do you have to explain? So this is from. Do we have to explain the quote for the direct link of the ABQ? So it should be really good question. I'm going to do another masterclass, and it's just going to focus on ABQ. But the general thing with an ABQ is it's your state, explain, and then you're linking it in, and then you might add on to that again. You might develop like that. You have to kind of your explanation needs to like flow into your link. It kind of like it should be like a smooth process, that it's not just like a random quote. Like it needs to flow and connect with your explanation. But I will be doing I'll put up on our story like what you want to focus on next. Maybe I was thinking to do like unit 3, 4, and 5, because they're the really important units for you guys, because they're coming up, and they're going to make up over 50% of your exam paper, like for 2021. But I can do the next one just focusing on an ABQ, if people would like that. So just let me know. That's absolutely fine. How many points should be made in the explain part? Like SRP. How many? So like an SRP. So that's like SRPs for a significant relevant point for people that are doing geography. And if you don't do geography, that's what I mean here. So how many points should be made in the explain part? So if it's a 20 marker, you need to then have 4 points. Okay, so you'll have state, explain, and give an example. With the explain part, you need to sometimes you write like one sentence and then your example then explains it. Okay, but sometimes you might need to just write the first sentence and then use it like a therefore, this leads to, and just explain it like once more and then put your example in. So like my advice would be to write, so state, explain your point, use a connected word like therefore, this means, like this leads to, because that then reinforces it. And then when you put the example in, you're getting full marks. There's no way an examiner can take marks off you then. Okay. Right. Let me just. Yeah. So if anyone hasn't used their website before, like ExamRevision.ie, we have a 20% discount on business. Okay. For you guys. So if I just want to show you a couple of things. So this is our website here. If you log into our website, right? Okay, so it's gonna come up as a teacher. So like if it's Leaving Cert Business, we have everything like completed like in here for you. So unit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, exam advice. If you click into each one, you can get you get like videos explaining like each part of the business Leaving Cert course. You've got quizzes that you can take, and then it gives you your score, so you can see the score you've got here. You've got the PowerPoint presentation. So if you're a teacher, you can use it, or if you're a student that prefers to just learn from writing and from notes. But then we also have notes as well. So if you click on this, it'll open up, and don't know if you guys can see that, but it'll open up and you've got like the notes in here. Okay, all beautifully like laid out for you guys, all in here. H1 standard notes to make things like really easy for you. So just come back out of here, and then a really like key thing that we have as a really like good feature is the build your exam, or if you're a junior if you're a Leaving Certificate student, it'll be just called exam paper questions. So like for today, for example, say we're looking at like leading, motivating, like we can look at all the past paper questions that come up. So if I quickly go down through here, I'll say like outline different stages of Maslow's hierarchy of needs and theory, and illustrate how hexagon solutions applies the theory to motivate a staff, right? So the word here, illustrate, really important that I make sure that I put my examples. So state, explain, examples. State, explain, examples is going to get me my marks here. It's 20 marks, okay? So we're going to need 4 points. And if we want to look at the suggested answers, we just click on it and then get the suggested answers. Okay, 20 marks here. So describe 2 leadership styles, outline 1 factor that influenced leadership style adopted by business managers, provide examples to support your answers. So it didn't say illustrate here, but they did say provide examples. So you must provide examples. So describe 2 leadership styles, it's going to be 10 marks, and then outline your factors, it's going to be 10 marks for this one. Okay, so state, explain is going to work here. State, explain, example is going to work for that one. 2018, explain the hierarchy of needs developed by Maslow's theory of motivation. Discuss possible limitations of the theory of motivation. So discuss is here. So you must say the limitation. Don't have that as your heading. You'll put that in the first sentence. Okay. Let's see if I've got outline, explain, illustrate. So you can see the command words are the ones that I said that come up all the time. Analyze is the other one here. Analyze the implications of business manager adopting Theory X approach to managing. So you need to give me the advantages of adopting Theory X and then the disadvantages of adopting Theory X, but you keep to your exam technique. State, explain, example. State, explain, example for advantages, and then you go state, explain, example, state, explain, example for your disadvantages, and that will be your 4 points, get your 20 marks, and it's all done there. One thing that we've just launched this morning, okay, so it's going to be going out there, is that we're running ExamRevision courses. Okay, so we're running ExamRevision courses. So if you want to have a look at our ExamRevision courses, the cost, it's €99, okay, but it's an intensive revision course, and if you book before the 20th of March, you can get it for $79.99. So you've got 21 days to avail of that order. And it's an intensive revision course. They're going to be they're 4 or 5 hours depending on the course. The time is here, the dates are here. You can see the higher level. So we've got like French oral prep, we've got Irish oral prep. Okay, we've got business, chemistry, geography, maths, economics, maths for level, and English. Okay, so maths for higher level, maths for level. And if you want to know what's on the course, okay, so for example, you like chemistry, what's on chemistry? If you click on this, it'll open up the course info, and you can see then exactly what the teacher, what Robert is going to look at for his chemistry course. He gives you then a nice breakdown of what he's going to focus on for the entire day. Okay, so really, really nice. And let me just go back in here. Okay, so these courses are available. Okay, and it's just something that there will be a limit on the number of students that we're going to allow on the courses. Okay, so it's something that if you want to if you find like these master classes, like these Saturday sessions, like useful, like these revision courses will cover most of the courses. So most of the courses will cover like the entire course, or it'll cover the things that are really like big. So for example, like the Irish oral, I think it's worth 40% for her level. So it's obviously it's like a very, very important like part of the course. But you can find out like what's on each one. Next week also, we will be back. We'll be back again. Okay, like next week, where we will we'll be back with Saturday session. Anya's back next Saturday. She's doing from 2 to 3. It's always Saturday 2 to 3. Just keep it nice and easy for you guys. Saturday sessions, and she's going to be looking at. Actually, let me just check. I think it's integration. That she's going to look at. So she's going to look at differentiation and integration, okay? And then she's going to look at, the week after that, she's going to look at trigonometry. Then the week after that is leaving cert chemistry with Rob. He's going to be focusing on water, okay? Right, let me just go back into questions. I know there's loads of more questions that I haven't answered, so let me just go back into the questions because I really want to answer your questions. So my teacher says that there would be very few H1s and not to expect one. Okay, there are only like a low numbers of H1s, but you can expect one, because if you know your exam like technique, and you know your content, and you know all the command words, and you're able to, like, your timing is good, of course you can get a H1. So so there are like a limited number, obviously, because they have to keep like a bell curve, and it's like they have to have like they can't have obviously everyone getting a H1, but of course you can get a H1. So those students that want to like get a H1, of course you can get a H1 if you listen to the advice that I gave you today, and if you listen to our other Saturday sessions, and you come along maybe to our Easter revision courses, and you get our user notes, and you have got really good exam technique. If I'm correcting your exam as a written examiner, I can't take marks off you if it's not like if it's right, then it's right, like, you know. So if you're stating and you're explaining and you're giving examples, I'm giving you like the 5 marks for that point. If you're doing your second one is a heading, you're stating, you're explaining, you're giving an example, I'm giving you the marks again. You're getting 5 marks, and if you do that the whole way through your paper, you're going to score full marks, okay, or you're going to get very close to full marks. If you're ABQ, if you're stating, explaining, you're putting in the link and it's relevant, and you're giving examples, yeah, you're getting the mark. Then you're getting the marks. If you're short questions, if you're answering all 12 short questions, and we're taking your best 8, and you're getting like 8 of them right, then you're getting 80 marks. Like, so even though there's only a few, you can get a H1, but you just need to not make the mistakes that lots of other students make, because by listening to lots of of the tips that I gave out to you today. How many points should be made in explain? Okay, yeah, I think I've answered that one. Okay, let me just click in this one here. So does the statement have to be a sentence? So I think that's what you mean. Like, so you have to have like, so your state, like, it can be like, yeah, a couple of words is okay. A couple of words is absolutely fine. So 2-3 words can work for your state, and then you'd go into your explanation, and then you give in your example. What's that one there? Someone said, for graphs and charts, is there a revision sheet I can on these? I find these hard. So on our website, ExamRevision, we have all them broken down. If I'll have a little look as well and see if I can maybe I can share something when I put out this PowerPoint with you guys as well. So this question here, whole time like every assessment or I don't quite get this question. It says whole time like every assessment or question. I'm not sure. I think that's from Kieran. If you could just, Oh, maybe, sorry, he wrote another question before that. Okay, that's the key terms I mentioned earlier on. Okay, right. If there's no questions, if there's questions I haven't answered, please just pop them into the questions on ExamRevision on our Instagram story, and I'll get back to you. Okay, I can put them up on our story then, so you can read them. Okay, but that's an hour and 15 minutes. We've gone through a lot of content, particularly focused on our exam technique. And remember, if you want more Saturday sessions, we'll be doing them next Saturday. Again, we'll be live next week from 2 to 3 is Anya, and it's for Leaving Certificate Maths. Okay, remember to follow us on social media. So we've got Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, we've got YouTube, subscribe to our channel, and then we've got Facebook as well. And if you just keep an eye on all our social media, that's where we post everything on our social media channels, just where for upcoming events and all our latest news and any sort of tips and hints for students to study more effectively. Right, thanks guys.